The Wall Street Journal is calling this the dumbest trade war in history. That was over the weekend. David Bahnsen with me now. The dumbest trade war in history. What's your take on this?
If all of this goes forward, I'm afraid I'm probably more on the Journal side. Now, I still hold out hope that there's a way to reel this back in. By the way, a few days into it, it gets a lot harder because then some of the prices go back and forth. It gets stickier. Look, I was supportive of the president's trade deal he did in the first term. So when he says, oh, they're ripping us off, I feel like a lot of Trump supporters don't realize they're coming down on the trade deal that President Trump himself did, which was a good trade deal. I'm against this. It does raise prices. If it's just to negotiate for better drug deal support, border control, great. But we're getting past the point of no return here, Stuart.
What are the consequences if it does drag on? And by dragging on, I mean a couple of weeks.
Manufacturing goes down. U.S. economic activity goes down. It's a higher cost into the system. It puts downward pressure on economic growth. When you tax more of something, you get less of it.
Okay. I was watching the NEC director, Kevin Hassett, earlier this morning. He said, this is not a trade war. This is all about drugs. Fentanyl. All about drugs. Respond to that.
That isn't what President Trump said last night. And Kevin Hassett's a very good friend of mine, and I love hearing that. If that's what it is, then great. Let's get better support to stop fentanyl, and let's not make it a trade war. But unfortunately, if we do 25% tariffs across the board, they retaliate. It's a $150 billion cost to the economy. So it becomes a trade war. But if Kevin's right, and I hope he is, that it's just being done to get support with drug trafficking, then maybe we get a quick ending to this. But it doesn't look like that's the way it's headed right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone so far already, even though the tariffs have not yet been imposed, tariffs and counter-tariffs. It's hard to see this unwinding in the short term.
You got to realize there's people saying different things to the president. Kevin Hassett is talking one way, but I think there's others like Stephen Miller, Pete Navarro, that are saying, no, let's do it as a trade war. Nothing will happen. So he's getting different advice from different people, and it's to be determined who's going to win this argument.
Right. It's very, very early days. Can you predict any winner in the market? I mean, a stock group, an industry group, anybody going to win?
People who are short the market are going to win right now.
Right. Anybody else?
No, there's not a sector that's going to win from this. That's one thing about trade wars. Everybody loses.
Does this continue? The selling continues. If there's no resolution to this in the immediate future, this selling on Wall Street continues?
Yes, but there will be little rallies along the way. But if it continues, which I hope it doesn't, Stuart,
right.
If it continues, it puts downward pressure on profits, and the market has to reprice that. So there's a ton of companies. It's not just those that are exporting directly that hurt. They hurt first, but then you get knock-on effects. Okay, like you look at the U.S. auto sector, for example. They make stuff here, but they import a lot of parts along the way. So it gets very complicated who all is affected. That's what drags the market impact on.
And can you get political support in the long term if it drags on?
See, and people say, 2018 it didn't hurt, but that's not true because they really did it very soft. It was only $30 billion of tariffs. He's coming out this time 5 times bigger, and manufacturing is still lower today than it was 7 years ago.
All right, David, stay with me for the hour, please, if you would. We need you. Over the weekend, Elon Musk and Doge employees, they just shut down the U.S. aid agency. He asked, as he was doing this, as he was shutting it down, Musk asked the president, got on the phone, talked to him, are you sure you really want to go through on this? Multiple times, Trump said yes. This is a $40 billion agency, shut down, 10,000 employees. I think, David, that this is the first full-scale shutdown of a major government organization that I can remember. And this is a breakthrough.
I agree. The question is going to be what they do to replace some of it. In the private sector, are charities going to pick up some of the work, churches? Because you know what? They do it better. So that's what I would like to see. I don't mind this agency going down, but to the extent that there's some good aid and good things being done, get it off of government, move it in private charity. I hope that's been thought through.
To me, it's just an example of extraordinary hardball being played by this administration.
And they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it.
David, thank you. We've gone through a whole list of red ink. Is there any stock that you would buy on the basis of this big dip today, apart from your dividend plays?
I would just point out Chevron isn't in a big dip. It's down a little bit, but when the market's down 2% or Nasdaq's down 2%, Chevron, the oil companies are not getting hit hard. Chevron was down Friday on a tough earnings season. Upstream results are really good. Downstream, the refining had its first negative quarter in years. I think it's just a great time to be buying Chevron. Almost 5% yield. Profits are near record levels. They're growing like crazy. A very favorable favorable energy policy in the new administration. They're not affected by this stuff with the tariffs at all. Chevron's a great play.
Not bad, not bad. Wrapped it up nicely. How about Merck?
Again, the drug makers are another sector. It's basically flat today because the drug makers are not really involved in the tariff story. And Merck was down quite a bit the last 6 months of last year. So I think it's a better value, low beta, low volatility, 3.5% yield that grows every single year. Merck is a leading drug maker. I would buy long term.
What a day. All right, David, thanks very much indeed. You say that tariffs lead to lower prices for consumers. Now, you take me through the economics of this.
So tariffs are one of the American traditions, right? George Washington, when the first president of the United States, second bill he signs tariffs. Fast forward to today, though, we're not talking about the 1700s. We're talking about, obviously, 2025. And so in 2018, Trump put tariffs in place. He did washing machines, solar panels, and steel. All three of those products saw a short-term, about 3 to 6 month increase in price. But before the pandemic, all three of those were then trading at lower prices than the pre-tariff prices. And so what ends up happening is we are punishing external foreign producers, and we are incentivizing domestic production. When we do that, they produce more.
David, you want to say something?
The steel and aluminum tariffs only lasted 6 months. President Trump took the tariffs off. And the whole point is what you can't see is the way it impacted other industries. Manufacturing is down 20% right now from where it was before those tariffs started. It never came back. So that is the issue, is there are certain jobs that change. It benefits one group, hurts a larger group. It's always a cost to the economy.
All right, Anthony, you tell me how tariffs lead to lower income taxes.
Well, if you look in 2018, what did he do? He increased tariff revenue, generated a revenue for the government, and he dropped the income tax from 39.6% to 37%. The whole reason why tariffs originally were put in place is because we didn't have an income tax. It used to be over 90% of all government revenue came from tariffs. We had zero income tax. From 1850 or so to 1950, we went from all tariffs, no income tax, to the exact opposite. What Donald Trump wants to do here is he wants to increase tariff revenue and he wants to drop income tax. 2018, we have a real-life example. He implemented tariffs. They created American jobs, protected American industry. He did not have inflation. Inflation actually went down in the 9 months after he implemented those tariffs. And he was able to drop federal income tax. I think that was the tariff experiment. We're now headed to the tariff era.
It was only $30 billion of tariffs in 2018. $30 billion. I mean, you're talking about a government that cost $6 trillion to run.
Not
He's
anymore.
right, though. When tariffs were, now he's talking about going higher 5 times. When tariffs were our only source of revenue, government spending was 1.9% of the economy. It's now 25%. So everyone using that argument is ignoring the real problem, I'm sure you agree, is the size of government. You cannot fund government with tariffs. It is 20 times larger than it was when we're talking about the 18th century.
Respond.
I think that the really big point here is that tariffs don't operate in a silo. They actually are operating in a big, complex economic machine. We see that Elon Musk is cutting significant costs. He thinks $1 trillion a year of government spending. And so having the tariffs play out at the same time that we're going to cut government spending obviously is a much better situation than if just the tariffs were levied without that cut in government spending.
It's going to be quite a day, isn't it?
It's going to be fun.
And quite a year, I'd say. It's been an extraordinary 2 weeks since he became president. That's a fact. All right.
All of these are subject to price increases.
Well, David, have at it, please.
No, it's just so, it's so cheeky and kind of just lame what he's doing. Economically, if I thought Democrats were really concerned about higher prices, I would love to hear it. The way he's doing it is silly. And ultimately, I don't think they care about it. Now, I do care about higher prices, and I believe that when you tax more of something, you get less of it. Right. And tariffs are taxes, and I want to have an honest conversation. Chuck Schumer's not interested in an honest conversation.
Okay, that's kind of dismissed, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're in a good mood today, aren't you?
And go Chiefs, by the way.
You're having fun. Oh, whatever. David, thank you. Thank you for being with us on the show for the entire hour.
Yes, sir.
Quite a morning, wasn't it?
Indeed.